So we got Cybermen, Daleks. I don't know. You can't do a Doctor special without them. I don't know. It just feels like they constantly bring these the same ones back, which I guess is
Yeah.
fine. It's like part of tradition, right? You have these big episodes, you want to include the Daleks, Cybermen. The Dalek or the Cybermen were, a kind of a carryover from what happened with the Master. So you have the
Yeah.
Time Lord Cyberman, which I really didn't like. I thought was kind of dumb. So the fact that they brought,
Cybermasters.
yeah, the fact that they brought them back, I was like, eh. But I will say it was worth it to get the dumb Cyberman back to have the Master be a major part of the episode because I thought the Master in this episode, I don't know, could have been my favorite thing about this episode. I just love this version of the Master. And they did some surprising stuff that they did a good job of hiding, that, not everything was spoiled. I was kind of
Yeah.
shocked by some of the places they went with the
Yeah.
Master and the Force regeneration and
Yeah.
all of that. So it was almost like the Cybermen and the Daleks didn't really matter. They're there kind of as a
Yeah.
set piece, but we can kind of push them off the chessboard because really the thing that matters was the Master as the villain in this one.
Yeah, absolutely. The Cybermasters, and they bring up a question as far as like Cybermen physiology, like how do they like so they're reliant on the organic material, like they're not anyways, the organic material regenerates and then they're all better at that point. So I guess the cyber part isn't really
Yeah,
all
I
that
was I was
important,
gonna
but
make it a point not to question any of that stuff this episode because like there was a lot of the kind of things like, wait, how did
oh
that
yeah.
how does that? But it's like,
Yeah.
let's just shove that stuff aside. Let's just focus on the key
Again,
element.
because the episode moves so fast, it's like it's only when you stop and have that
Mhm.
reflection that it's like, wait a minute. Like I feel like you're playing the shell game, right? Like
Yes.
it's moving so
Yes.
fast that it's like, okay, well, I'm just gonna focus on the one thing. But yes, the master. The master is this version of the master is just incredible. Um, just the highs and the lows. And even when he just plays the stoic Rasputin, right? Like
Yes.
he is utterly disturbing at times, in all the right ways, right? Like he is he is the opposite of Jodie Whittaker, in so many different ways. So
Yes.
such
Which
a
is
such a
which is part of why he works so well
yeah,
with this specific doctor. And I think so. I'll make a prediction. I think we will see him again. I
really
don't think this is just Jodie Whittaker's master that she faces. I think we will see this version of the master face off against Shutigawa. He's too good.
interesting.
He's too good
Yeah,
to not bring back. I think he loves being part of the show. When you see him
yeah.
get interviewed, he is all about it. He loves it. He's super popular. I don't see them shoving him aside. I think we see him again. He's going to carry over.
This is a discussion for a totally different time. Do you think that cheapens his performance as a master, separate Jody or opposite Jodie Whittaker, to bring him back again for another Doctor? But discussion for another time, I guess.
Yeah,
Maybe.
yeah, we can talk about it more at some point. But I did so one of the things I noticed about him because you kind of see three different versions of the master, right? You see him as Rasputin,
Yeah,
see him as kind of the master with his kind of more floppy-ish hair.
yeah,
Then you see him as the doctor, when
yeah,
he forces the regeneration, and he's got like a fresh haircut, kind of
yep.
short hair, and it's almost like we get three versions of the same character with three very
Yeah.
different looks, and it all felt very intentional. I was eating it up. I just loved
Oh,
it.
I wanna just call you out for the fact that when we were going through the YouTube video, our YouTube teaser last review, we pointed out two separate hairstyles, right? It was
Yes.
later that you text me and you were like, third hairstyle, third iteration of the master. And it's like you spotted that right from the beginning. And as I'm watching the show, as I'm watching the finale, it's like, dang, three different versions of the master. Like Aaron picked it out, he called it out. There are three totally different versions of the doctor or of the master in this episode. But yeah, it which also speaks to how he's playing the master, right? Like to be able to transition in the same episode to three totally different characters. That's just that's
I
incredible.
he
He
had me
does such a good
guessing
job.
so much. Like even when he first turned into the doctor, you're kind of like, oh, maybe maybe he's going to be like a good version of the master. And
Oh,
like he
yep.
kind of starts to act like he's going to be, and then he snaps on Yaz and yells in her face, and you're
Yeah.
like, oh, never mind. Like he goes in and out. It's like he's
Yeah.
bipolar or whatever, multiple personality disorder, whatever you want to call it. But he's just so fun to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think in that moment when he becomes the doctor, it is like there was something on how he portrayed it. Like there's this like intense jealousy for the doctor, but yet like this desire to just not kill the doctor, but to ruin the doctor's reputation. I think that's what stuck out to me so much is like we've seen the master try to destroy the doctor before. We've seen the master try to kill the doctor. Like that's kind of old hat. But to see the master like actively trying to destroy the doctor's reputation, like to just make the doctor the villain, that just like that took the madness of the master in my mind to a totally different level. Like there was something about that just stuck out to me in this episode.
And the master has always been obsessed with, you know, immortality and be able to live forever kind of thing. Like we've seen even in the classic series, like I'm not super versed on the classic series, but I know there's been times where it kind of cheats death and and this is just another situation where he's basically saying, if I can basically force the doctor to regenerate into me, then I will now be the doctor and I will have, because he knows the timeless child and all that
Yeah.
stuff. And that basically the doctor is the prime, almost like the prime, the
Yeah.
original
Yep.
Time Lord.
Yeah.
And all the other Time Lords kind of have this regeneration limit, but the doctor doesn't. And so he's like, if I can become the doctor, I'm basically going to become the most powerful Time Lord and I can live forever,
Yep.
And he's always kind of been jealous of the doctor in a way or wants to be the doctor. So I mean, this is the fulfillment of all of his dreams and hopes and what he could become. Um, yeah, and it was not expected. I knew the
Yeah.
master was going to be in this episode, but did I ever expect that they were going to do some sort of a forced regeneration where we see the doctor literally regenerate into the master? Like that wasn't even anywhere on my checklist of things that I wanted to see,
No.
but it ended up being one of the kind of coolest aspects of this episode.
Yeah. I just the entire time I was somewhat flabbergasted. I was like, I don't know what's happening here, but I'm here for it. Like I I don't know how this works and what this means for the future. And like have they in that moment it was like have they pulled the wool over our eyes this entire time? Like is this Whitaker's regeneration? And does the master then regenerate into what comes next? Is he the
Uh,
answer for like where the show goes from this point forward? That doesn't end up being
that would have been
true, but
mind blowing if they had
oh yeah.
kind of gone that direction with it. And honestly, it would have been too mind blowing that I didn't even consider that
I was freaking out.
when she regenerated into him. I was like, okay, they're going to figure out a way to reverse this. Like I was never even thinking that that would be it for her. Like you can't have that be her final scene. Like she's got to have
Oh,
something more triumphant. So
I was ready for like the evil Doctor arc, like the next regeneration, and we'll get there. But Tennant, like I was waiting for the evil Tennant, like Doctor arc. Like I was waiting for it to start to go this crazy direction because I just didn't know how the heck this could work out. But yeah,
yeah. Um, anything else on the master? I mean, I guess we can kind of sprinkle stuff in later, but
yeah. I mean
yeah.
the shrinking of the seismologists, like the capturing of who I thought was another timeless child, and it just ends up being some crazy space entity.
Some entity they needed to use the power to kill the doctor.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
yeah, the Rasputin, like that is just going to be like the iconic look in my mind for the like a great master callback to history. The master showing up as Rasputin was just solid.
Right.
But
And actually showing the czar and,
yeah,
him telling them to go off to vacation. And I
oh yeah,
was like, oh,
yep,
yeah, I know this story.
yep,
Yeah. So we also, I guess the one last thing about the master, like, I guess the master had his own TARDIS or his version of the TARDIS. And that was where I started to get confused. And like I said, I don't want to get caught up in the minutia of like what
yeah,
works or what doesn't or what questions it brings up. But there was definitely oh yeah, this is his version. So I guess
Newer, more powerful version.
some
Like,
version
yeah,
of him did last longer and had a TARDIS for a while, enough to hardwire it into a planet. I don't know. Like I said, it starts to get too detailed where I'm like, okay, I need to rewatch this episode to really fully understand all of that. But he did have his own
yeah,
TARDIS, and I guess changed the nameplate on the front or the
right,
telephone to just say ha 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 ha.
right. I
So
mean,
it
that
wasn't a
explains what we saw
vision.
in the teaser.
We thought it might be a vision that the Doctor was having. That's what we were speculating, but no, that's just, I guess, his style of TARDIS.